Hi, my name's Dan Huss and I'm from Scottsdale, Arizona. And today we're going to talk about teaching a horse to get collected. So the first thing you want to have is you got to have where you can take a hold of the horse's mouth. So the best way to start that is in a bending circle. So when you bend a horse and they're being a little heavy, like if he is being heavy on that left rein, I would use my left leg and left spur, and it'd be a press, and I would pick up and get him to give. As you can see, this is an older finished horse, so he gives pretty ideal, but you have to have the lateral bend before you can get the vertical set and before you can get him to round up. Because a lot of times this lateral bend will help them pick their shoulders up, and obviously they have to have their shoulders picked up to be collected. So once again, you start off, as you move your hand, you're squeezing, and then if they feel a little heavy, you squeeze with your spur and make them give. And you pull a little bit harder and see how he's giving all the way. Once he gives all the way, then you slowly release everything. And he's straightened out, and again, you bend him again. So you work a lot on the bending, all right? So figure out what side's the heavy side and the light side, and always work a little bit more on the heavy side, because it's your job as the trainer or as the owner to try to get that horse even on both sides, all right? Most horses are like people, they're right and left-handed, so you have one direction that you have to work a little bit more on to get them even. But at a walk and a trot, you should be able to get a horse to bend with the same amount of pressure on the reins, no matter if they are uneven. So maybe loping, because of their conformation, they might be a little stiffer one way, but at the walk and the trot, you should be able to get both ways pretty even. And now 90% of the horses, even at a lope, you should be able to get them pretty even. So the first thing, again, is the lateral bend. You got to have them where you can take that head to the side. Now, when you first teach the lateral bend, you'll move your hand back here, okay, like on a 2-year-old, and get them to bend. And then you gradually just move your hand up. So the first 2 or 3 days, you might have to pull your hand back here and drive them just so they know. And then after 2 or 3 days of that, then you would come up here and do it for the rest of the time. You do it up here, okay? Now you notice, like when I bend them, I still have a little bit of contact with my outside rein right here. Okay, I don't just completely throw it away. I have a little bit, so that way they want to tuck that chin in just a little. Now in a 2-year-old, they're not going to tuck their chin in, but it's going to help you guide them in that circle. You'll have to teach them to tuck that chin in a little bit. All right, so the first thing I have to have is have those bending circles. I have to have that lateral give, okay? Because that way, when I'm walking, and this horse, if he looks up or looks off to the right, and I pick up and I squeeze, I can get this type of response. Now you notice when this horse responds, how the base of his neck is down, all right? You don't want them to, like when you take a hold of them, where they pick their neck up like that, because when they pick their neck up, when you take a hold of them, it allows their back to hollow out. But if you can get them to drop down where their neck is level with their wither, and this horse, he's done it a lot, so he gets a little too low with that head, but if you can get them to keep their head right in there when you drive them, that makes them lift from here and also makes them lift right here in the back, okay? But if you allow them to pick their head way up and do it, then they can drop their shoulder down and they can hollow out their back, all right? So the collection, even though most people won't talk about a collected walk, you still got to do it at a walk just to teach that horse how to respond to the pressure. Now the jog, it can be, like some horses will jog so slow where they're kind of half walking, half jogging. So to me, you want to have 2-beat trot, like one, okay? And then your horse is collected, right? But if you let him jog like right there, see how he's wanting to quit? And so to me, that the horse is not in a collected frame when they're going that slow. Like to me, they have to have a 2-beat trot where you feel that 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and see how he's giving his face, and then you would slowly release him. All right. Again, when I pick up, I squeeze, get the definite cadence there, and then I slowly release. All right. So like on my 2-year-olds, like I'll spend, you know, quite a bit of time at the trot and get them collected before I automatically do it at the lope. You know, at the lope, what I do on my 2-year-olds is I get them to guide good, and once they're guiding good, then that helps with the collection, all right? But I don't necessarily make them set their head and go around like this until I can take a hold of them and have them guide good, you know? I want them to respond to a light guide, and then if they don't respond to that, I want to be able to drag my hand across and use my inside rein and get them to move their feet and respond to that. So they not only have to respond to my initial signal, if they're being not paying attention, I have to take a hold. I got to get them where they'll respond pretty ideally to that, just like he did. And then once I got them where they can do that, loping, then I start, and I have them doing the headset at a jog, then I start taking a hold of them at a lope. So like to me, like a horse is collected if you're loping on the left lead, you want to see, if you watch that horse go around there, you want to see his right hind fall into his left front. All right, so whatever print he leaves in the dirt with his left front, the right hind should fall in it. So that horse is actually loping just at a slight angle like that, okay? And that, in that position there, it is very hard for that horse to be uncollected or to do a trope where they're loping up front and trotting behind. Now some of them can, but if you can keep that hip slightly underneath them and they have their neck even with their wither, then usually they'll have their shoulders up and they'll be moving in a collected gait. All right. So remember, I have this horse doing it pretty consistently at a jog, and I have him where he's guiding good at the lope. So now I'm ready to implement the headset at the lope. So a lot of people, what they like to do is that they take a hold of their faces and set their heads from day one on the 2-year-olds. I'm not a firm believer in that, because I feel like a horse has to develop in their neck. They have to develop this muscle right here in their neck to get really good at it. So to do that, to get that developed, you got to ride them a little bit, you know. So I'm not big on tying their heads down and the reins up over their back and just making them do it in a round pen. I think you have to spend your time, you know, putting hours on them the first 30 days and ride them around there, get them to go forward, get them to go left, get them to go right, and just get them stronger. And then you gradually put it on them. Now, I use that bitting them up if I'm having problems setting their head once I start setting their head. But I don't ever use it right at first and bit them up and tie them back. I want my horse to be able to carry his head up here, and because I think when you bit him up too early and you don't make that horse drive from behind, then they start falling on their front end and they don't keep their shoulders up. So that's why I don't try to bit them up right at first. I want that horse to go out there and just move around there in a position that's comfortable for him. Now, if comfortable is extremely high, then I let him do it for a few weeks and then I gradually put his neck down. But usually if you have that horse guiding good and going forward, that horse will drop his pole and it'll be within either 2 or 3 inches of the wither, like a little higher than the wither or a little lower than the wither, without ever taking a hold of them and setting their head, all right? So I'm not big on I call it trapping them at the beginning. I'm not big on trapping them. Once again, I think the trapping just teaches that horse to get heavy on his forehand, because so many people when they ride with their hands, and all they ride is the horse's face. You know, like I always yell at my assistants, ride the body. And what I mean by that is make that horse drive from behind. So on that collection, you got to squeeze with your legs and make that horse go forward up into the bridle. It's not just pulling their head away from them. All right, so now this, if this is a 2-year-old, he's ready to go lope. We've done a lot of trotting, he guides good. So now we're going to implement the collection at a lope. Now this horse is already probably moving in a collected manner with a little more of a natural headset, all right? So what you're basically doing, because that's what making them guide good will do, is it'll make them get move in a collected way, but they might be a little bit freer, a little bit more up with their neck or a little bit more out with their nose. So you want, again, when you take a hold of them, drive with your legs a split second before you pick up on them and get them to give. And see how I make him go forward up in that bridle so his cadence never changes. Okay, if anything, he sped it up a little bit. Okay, I don't want him to slow it down. I want him to go forward. So everything's going off his hind end. And as you can see when you watch this horse circle, it's like he was a little too bent at first, but now he's pretty good. The outside hind foot is falling in the inside front foot path. And you see how he's got a nice 3-beat lope, all right? But you already have that position just from guiding. What you're working on is just getting them to give their face here. So what you want to do is when you're loping, you do the same thing at a lope as you do at a trot. You just squeeze, take a hold, and you release. You know, you want to feel like they keep their pull down. And this horse is soft enough to where I don't have to bump him. You know, he gets a little bit lazy, so I adjust my spurs when he gets heavy in my hand, all right? Now, if he was a horse that was a little chargy, I'd hold my spurs and then I'd probably bump him off of it a little bit. But that's what I mean by riding the body. See, most of the time when this horse was heavy, like I barely increased the pressure in my hands and then I adjusted my spurs to get him to get collected.
Markel has had the privilege of being affiliated with the National Reining Horse Association for over 20 plus years. And fortunately or unfortunately, I've been representing Markel for almost all those years as well. We are a very integral part of the horse industry. We intend to remain an integral part of the horse industry. When you look at organizations like the NRHA and NRCHA and other organizations that we have had the good fortune of representing, it's about what we can do for the people through the products that we have to offer, that being not only livestock mortality, but commercial equine insurance, farm and ranch coverage, and also commercial liability and professional trainers liability. Are they applicable to all? No, but there are so very many people in the industry that can use what we have to offer, and I'm very fortunate to have a team of specialists that work with me for Markel, our Western discipline team, and they offer products for people, Western horse people in particular, throughout the country. We have some other opportunities that are becoming available now with the hopeful addition of a new organization and some new entities, along with some other products that Markel offers as a corporation. Their winery coverage, their camp and path coverage that we've been involved with for years. And I look forward to the next 20 years representing Markel.